Good evening, everyone. I'm Belle Holder. Thank you so much for tuning in to CBC TV 8, the national broadcaster for Barbados. Whether you're watching via Facebook or YouTube, we are very happy to have you with us, especially if you cannot be here at home in Barbados. Wherever you are in the diaspora, we are so glad we could share this moment with you tonight. It's a special time for Barbados that amidst the continued challenges of navigating a pandemic, we deserve a win, don't we? For 2021, that win comes in the form of UNCTAD 15, the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development. This year, Barbados is host of the conference with Prime Minister Motley as chair. It is the first time in the 57-year history of UNCTAD that it is being hosted by a small island developing state, and also a first for the Caribbean. It's a big deal. Of course, due to the COVID pandemic, the conference will be held virtually. Nonetheless, it is still a big deal, and all eyes will be on us and our beautiful island of Barbados. Tonight, we turn our attention to civil society organizations, which are an essential component of growth and development. Civil society organizations play multiple roles, and we really need to acknowledge that these third sector organizations create an important source of information for both citizens and government. The work often entails monitoring government policies and actions, and most importantly, they hold government accountable. Members of this third sector work with a passion and a tenacity that is unmatched, whether they're advocating for some of the most vulnerable people, for the environment, or for the betterment of society. Civil society organizations are more important now than ever before to advocate at policy level, which benefits us all at every level. As they continue to work outside of government and outside of the private sector, making a difference through their work in the third sector. Tonight's guests are Richard Jones of the Caribbean Policy Development Center, Donna Russell of the Barbados Association of Non-Governmental Organizations, and Rhea Harrison of the Green Business Project with the Future Center Trust. But first, let's welcome Mr. Richard Jones, Officer in charge of the Caribbean Policy Development Center, known as the CPDC. Good evening, Richard.
Good evening. It's good to be here.
Good evening. So good for you to be here. You know, there's a lot happening. I know that your organization is up front and center and responsible for the organization of the civil society forum that is coming up through UNCTAD, and that's happening tomorrow. So it's been a busy time for you, hasn't it?
Oh, it quite has been quite busy for the last few weeks. We've been working for a number of international non-governmental organizations and civil society organizations to help organize and pull together the Civil Society Forum at UNCTAD. So it has been a joint effort, but logistically, my organization has taken the lead role. So we've been quite busy over the last few weeks in making this happen.
Right. So, you know, I know that the CPDC was first established as a policy unit within the Caribbean Conference of Churches. Interestingly enough, it made me think of, is religion at the base of your organization? Is it safe to make that assumption?
No, I think it's a matter of timing. At that time, the Caribbean Conference of Churches was the leading organization doing much of the development work, not necessarily ecumenical, but development work in communities across the region. And they were supporting a number of grassroots type organizations to support vulnerable beneficiaries on the ground across the Caribbean. I think there was a recognition at that time by the CCC and those organizations that they were working with that there was a need for an organization to tackle the policy issues that had a great influence on what they were seeing on the ground with their beneficiaries. And our beginnings originate to a large extent at a time when the IMF and structural adjustment programs were happening, and it was causing significant social and economic dislocation for the average person on the ground. That was the catalyst for CCC, Caribbean Conference of Churches, and the other NGOs to come together to create the CPDC as a policy voice for the NGO sector and those persons who are generally unheard throughout the Caribbean.
Right. So, although you're based here in Barbados, this is not a Barbadian organization. I really want people to understand that your organization has a regional reach. So, give us a sense of the number of member organizations that are involved and some of the countries that Barbadians probably would be surprised to hear are involved in the CPDC.
Right. So roughly we have about 36 members, and we monthly it seems that we are adding members as well. We have about 36 members who many of them are regional umbrella bodies or national umbrella bodies representing other non-governmental organizations. We presently represent about 12 to 14 countries when we look at both our membership and the partners we work with, because we are not limited to only working with our membership, but we work through a number of non-governmental organizations as partners in many countries. So as far north as Belize to as far south as Suriname and the island chain going down.
Right. So, how is your organization funded?
So we are mainly funded by international development organizations. Presently, we have programs with the European Union. We have programs with like the Inter-American Foundation that's funded by the U.S. Congress. We have support from the Open Society Foundation. As another example, we're doing a project on climate change right now with the German government through the Munich Climate Insurance Initiative, MCII. So we draw our funding and support from a broad base of international sources.
Right. But so my question before we go to commercial break is, now that COVID is on the scene, how has that complicated what you are hoping to accomplish?
Yeah, it has complicated things somewhat, particularly for our members and partners. We've been able to move things online, and much of our work is on education and awareness and research, which we are still able to complete and undertake, albeit at a slower pace given the COVID and COVID restrictions from time to time as well. But I must say that it has impacted many of our partners on the ground who are unable to deliver the quality of training to vulnerable groups we normally have done in the past. So it has significantly impacted our sector. For the average organization, they also have had much less funding support, donor support, and many organizations have very minimal staff and very minimal programs. And that's unfortunate because it's coming at a time where the impact of COVID has increased the demand for those support services.
Yeah, thank you. So we're going to continue our conversation when we come back from this commercial break. We're going to continue our conversation looking at the history and the development of civil society organizations right here on CBC TV 8. We just had the opportunity to speak to Richard Jones of the CPDC, and now we're going to turn our attention to the Barbados Association of Non-Governmental Organizations, known as Bango. Donna Russell is standing by to chat with us. Good evening, Donna.
Good evening. So happy to be here.
Always a pleasure to see you. You are a busy lady, and now you are the Deputy Secretary General with Bango. You've been with the organization for about a year. Interestingly
Yes.
enough, in looking at how the organization was formed, it was so interesting to see the name Roosevelt King pop up on,
Yes.
right, having started the organization back in 1997. Of course, he's no longer with us. May God rest his
Yes.
soul. But I would have known Roosevelt King doing a lot of work with the Landship, for example, a friendship society. So tell us about your work with Bango.
Well, like you said, I started just a year ago, but my ties to Bango go way back. This is I've worked for two civil society organizations before. So I've had interaction with Bango occasionally. So I know just how I know what purpose and so on Bango represents in civil society. You mentioned Roosevelt. A lot of people knew him as Ty. And strange enough, somebody met me the other day and didn't know he had passed away and started elaborating on what he did for them. And that is how he was. He started Bango. He represented us in forums that we didn't think a small island can entertain. So, like the African Caribbean Pacific Group, the Cotonou Agreement, lots of committees internationally and locally as well. Ty would have introduced the Barbadian civil society too.
Right.
Um, he we registered officially though in 2005.
Right. So while the CPDC is focused on Barbados and the region, your organization, Bango, is focused on Barbados. And interestingly enough, I think it's
Yes.
important for us to let people know that if you are involved in an NGO, you're automatically a member of Bango. How does that work exactly?
Yes. Well, officially, we represent every NGO and some civil society organizations, because some civil society organizations are quite large, but we definitely represent every NGO. There's no membership. People think that there's a membership fee. There's no membership fee. We are the umbrella body, so we represent automatically everyone. And that is one point that I really would like to get across. All you need to do is to contact us. Once you contact us, you are automatically represented by us. And
Right.
what we want to do, yes, go ahead, sorry.
I was going to stress your point that there is no membership fee, but you still need to register with the organization.
Yes, you do need to register. And it's quite easy. We have a Facebook page, or you can call us on or WhatsApp us. It's quite easy. We do not want people to think that they have to be big or small. As long as you're an NGO, you are automatically under the umbrella of Bango. And what we want to do is to advocate. We want to advocate for our people. We want to make sure CSOs and the NGOs that look to us are filled with leadership, people who are are au fait with what they need to do as an NGO. We want to bring everybody up to a certain standard, and that is our main thrust, to make sure that our leaders are knowledgeable. And by the way, we have quite a lot of professionals, and we want the public to see us as a professional body, because we have people who have been running NGOs for eons and know exactly what they should be doing. But we want to bring everybody on board and do our training and our
Right.
programs and make sure everybody's represented.
So, Donna, what we were looking at is the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, which of course came out of the UN General Assembly in 2015. Your
Yes.
organization, Bango, boasts that in terms of your mandate, you are actually attempting to fulfill these 17 Sustainable Development Goals. I'm just going to list some of them for our audience tonight. So basically, the mindset behind that is no person is to be left behind. And these goals are to be
That's right.
achieved by 2030. We're 9 years out right now. We've got some serious setbacks that we're all currently experiencing across the world. So no poverty, zero hunger, good health and well-being, quality education, gender equality, clean water and sanitation, affordable and clean energy, decent work and economic growth, industry, innovation and infrastructure, reduce inequality, sustainable cities and communities, responsible consumption and production, climate action, life below water, life on land, peace and justice, strong institutions, partnerships to achieve the goal. There are the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. How is your organization doing in achieving this? How do you even measure success when we're in the midst of COVID and we're 9 years out of when we're supposed to achieve this in 2030?
You know, the thing about it is that each NGO, and we have 92 on our mailing list, and we have 50 in an active chat group, and they are just the ones that are actively participating, and each one of them can speak to one of those 17 goals, and some speak to more than one of the 17 goals. So we can easily say that we really do represent each one of those goals.
Right. Thank you, Donna. So when we come back, we're actually going to speak to an organization who definitely can put some check marks on that list. We're going to be talking to Rhea Harrison. She is with the Future Center Trust. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. Tonight we're taking a look at the history and development of civil society organizations, and the UNCTAD 15, the Civil Society Forum, is happening tomorrow. So this is a nice jump start to the discussion. Well, the Future Center Trust is a non-governmental organization focused at raising awareness of environmental impacts to Barbados and the planet, with a vision to be a catalyst for sustainable living today and tomorrow. Let's say good evening to Rhea Harrison. Hi there.
Hi, good evening, Belle. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
You are most welcome. So Rhea, your focus with the Future Center Trust is Green Business Barbados. You are the project coordinator. Give us a sense of what the project entails and how it can impact on each and every one of us.
Okay, so the Green Business Barbados project is basically an initiative that is focused on assisting businesses, entities, organizations, even individual homes with implementing sustainable, cost-efficient, resource-efficient practices. So essentially what it entails is an assessment of where the business currently stands and helping them to find ways that they can reduce their environmental impact, ways that they can basically stretch their resources a little further to increase their production yield.
Okay, so say I have a business, my business is up and running already for a number of years. how do I get this assessment first of all, and is it going to cost me? I'm thinking so many businesses would be afraid to have you come out and assess the business, because sometimes maybe they don't want to know all the mistakes that they're making.
Well, generally, we would reach out to businesses, but we also have a lot of businesses that they do reach out to us. You can get into contact with us via email, via telephone, even on our social media channels. And we would have initial discussions and see where we can take your business.
Go ahead.
So generally, I would go in and assess your business, and we would come up with strategies of how we can improve some of the processes within your business to make them more sustainable.
So give us some specifics. What are you looking at? You're looking at how I'm wasting water. You're looking at how I dispose of garbage in my business.
Yes, so our main focal areas are solid waste management, energy conservation and management, water resource conservation and management, pollution control, employee well-being, and environmental education. So for instance, let's say we look at water, and currently your business may be using potable water to irrigate plants. Instead, we would suggest, you know what, how about we catch rainwater and harvest that and use it to irrigate the plants versus using potable water that could better go towards domestic purposes, for instance.
So how much is it? Is there a general cost associated with how much people have to then reset their businesses in a sense and implement some of these green business options?
Yes, there is a general cost, but it does range based on the size of the business and the number of employees working at the business. So there's that range. And then there's also the additional cost of some of the measures that you may choose to implement.
Okay, and so I just want everybody to know that RIA specializes in biodiversity conservation and sustainable development in the Caribbean. We're going to have the others join us right now because we really want to look at what are some of the outcomes that you're expecting for your organizations coming out of the UNCTAD 15 Civil Society Forum, which is being held from September 22nd to the 24th. You definitely want to go online to UNCTAD, that's UNCTAD.org, and have a look. So, Richard, one of the things I know that we had mentioned earlier, your organization was up front and center in terms of organizing the forum. So I would think that you have big expectations, especially since you're working at a policy level. What are your expectations coming out of the forum?
I think since small island developing state and as a developing country, I think we all have great hope that something big and transformative happens at the upcoming meeting. This is some challenging times of COVID-19, and many of our economies, for example, we've taken on quite a bit of debt to maintain that social safety net. We've taken on debt as well to maintain the healthcare services. And it's important that we arrive at some sort of agreement that's supportive of an international mechanism that helps developing countries to negotiate or gain debt relief, I should say, for the debt that has been incurred. I would wrap it up by saying I think the theme of the conference, from invulnerability to prosperity for all,
that's right,
would be what we would want to see achieved, and it needs to be a transformative program.
So can we keep all three on? I want to keep all three of you on screen. I think it's important that we see a collective represented here tonight in terms of the different organizations who are working in the third sector. So Donna, what about you in terms of expectations in relation to your organization, Bango?
You know, it's much the same. We love the theme and the language of UNCTAD because civil society has a voice. NGOs, they have a voice and they want to be heard. So we want inclusion, no discrimination. We want our just desserts when it comes to recognizing that we're professional, and we want to have a say. We want to have a seat at the table, so to speak. We want a strong collective voice. That's what they say is the goal. And we want that strong collective voice so that we can represent the various groups and the civil society that comprises the civil society. We want not to be left behind.
Right.
And definitely inequality and vulnerability. We don't want that. We want to move towards prosperity for all.
For all. Thank you. And of course, Ria, you know, climate change, that's the words on everyone's lips. And I think that what you're doing definitely is directly connected with that. So in terms of the UNCTAD forum, what are your expectations?
I am hoping that out of these discussions that the policymakers, the decision makers would really take into consideration our challenges that we as NGOs and CSOs are having, and really consider them when they're making these final decisions. For instance, challenges that we would have in terms of funding, opportunities for technical development, training, and so on. I really would love to see more opportunities open up for our organizations.
Fantastic. Well said. Thank you all so much for joining us. This felt like the fastest half hour in television. I wish you all the very, very best in terms of the upcoming forum. So again, the UNCTAD 15 Civil Society Forum will be held from September 22nd to the 24th. Remember that for the most part, of course, it's a virtual conference. So you need to log on to UNCTAD, that's UNCTAD.org for more information. It's not too late to register and be a part of the change. Thank you all so very much for joining us. My name is Belle Holder, and interestingly enough, you want to stay with us on CBC TV8 because coming up next is UNCTAD Conversations, which will be featuring Minister Colin Jordan, and the third sector falls right under his ministry. So UNCTAD Conversations is coming up next on CBC TV8. I'm Belle Holder. On behalf of the entire team, thank you so much for joining us. Stay safe, everybody. Good night.